G'day guys, Ben and Lisa from Pumped on Property here today. I've got my little fella Kobe. We're doing a bit of a special podcast today, and Kobe wanted to jump in and say g'day to everyone. But we're actually going to talk about the last 6 months, which was the best of my entire life, where we got to travel around Australia together as a family, pretty much from here in the sunny coast all the way around the border to Perth, and then spent some time in Bali at the end. But super excited to sort of talk about some of the lessons we learned, some of the cool places we went to, and just the people that we're able to become on that trip. Epic, babe. Well, thanks for jumping on today, because I know you hate doing this stuff.
I know. I'm here.
Dragged you on again.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I suppose, you know, the trip was absolutely insane. Like thinking back about it now, there were sort of pieces to it. Like there was okay, we're actually going to do this. And then a bit of a false start, and then, okay, we're going to do it, and holy shit, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then there's getting on the road and getting used to it, and then loving it, and then there's like the coming home now.
Yeah, I don't even think I believed that we were really going until the day we left, because I was like, no, something's going to happen and we won't go. But we did it.
We did it. We did it.
Yeah.
So I suppose when did we originally say that this was something that we wanted to do, which was the travel around Oz with the 3 kids?
A few years earlier, I'd say.
It's at least 2.5 years ago, eh?
Yeah. I think it's also become more popular. You hear of it more often. So we were watching families who were doing it on YouTube, and I was following people who were doing it on Instagram, which is really inspiring to see them doing it.
For sure. And I think it was bumping into it. I remember pretty clearly, when we were in Bali in 2022, we'd already thought about doing it. And then we met this family who were doing this from the northern beaches, that were doing this crazy around the world trip. Yeah. And I remember coming back and I'm like, if these guys can do it, we can definitely do it.
Yeah. And they just had 2 little kids. But you can just travelers just look different. You can almost just pick them from the way they look. They're just relaxed and happy, and a bit more rugged because they've just stopped caring about all the stuff that you care about when you're not traveling, and
chatty.
Such a vibe. Open. I was I like these people. Yeah. That's their secret.
Yeah. And we literally asked them that. I was like, dude, you look so happy. What's up?
Yeah.
He's like, oh man, I've been cruising for 9 months.
Yeah. And they were in Greece, and they were traveling the world, which is really cool.
So I think that was the turning point. We came back from Bali. We decided to change our life. We sold a couple of our properties at that point.
Yeah.
We
met that other couple too, remember? The ones at the caravan park.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We met them on the first day of their trip. And
yeah, so they'd sold their house and their business.
Yeah.
This was 2022 Christmas.
Yeah.
When we did 5 weeks in our caravan down to Sydney and back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's right. That was day one for them, hey?
Yeah. They were pretty inspiring too, because they had everything all set up, and their enthusiasm was contagious.
Yeah, so we met them at day one.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we've just sold up everything and we're going. And I'm like, hang on, here's someone else that they were pretty wound up still on that day. I remember she invited us around and she cleaned up the caravan for us to come and have a look at it.
I was like, you're not coming into my caravan because it does not look like this.
Yeah, and then we got back, and it got real at that point. Hey, we're okay, we're going to actually do this. And it was about a year later or so, 9 months later, that we actually made it happen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that getting ready for it before we left.
Well, there's we decided we wanted to upgrade the car and caravan, because we're if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. And we started looking at caravans. We had to sell our old caravan. And then because we upgraded the caravan, we needed the car bigger to tow the upgraded caravan. So it was a whole ordeal just getting that all organised.
Yeah, so that was part of it. There's actually more than I thought there was to do. We sold the old caravan and we pretty much got rid of everything. Mm-hmm. And then I remember that day that I was like, okay, it's time. And so we went, and it wasn't actually time. I was thinking forward a bit, but it was after we got the new caravan, we just all as a family, with the kids, went out for the day and just bought everything we needed for the trip almost.
Yeah.
And I remember we were down in Sydney in 2022 for the Killers. We were at the concert in the Hunter Valley, and we'd hired a big house with 10 of our mates or maybe more.
Yeah.
and we were doing like a big boozy weekend, and we had some time on the Sunday driving home, and we're like, oh, those people that we met in the caravan park had their
we really liked their caravan.
their leader caravan.
Yeah.
And so we just were like, oh, leader's just down the road, and we just impulsively stopped in and just ordered a new caravan on the spot.
We can be very impulsive.
Yeah, for sure. And then I was like, oh, fuck, we need money for this, and we also need to like sell the old one.
Yeah.
But it was a 6-month lead time to get it.
Yeah.
So I remember that, and then selling both of our cars and replacing it with like one really nice Land Cruiser. And then I went through the whole ARB thing of like getting fridges, roof racks, like spotlights, all the gear, and no idea for sure.
Oh, getting set up to go away is just a bottomless pit. Like you can just keep going and going with like modifying your caravan and modifying your car, and then you see someone else with this cool thing they've got. But like what I would say is everything we did upgrade, we did use.
Everything.
I wouldn't say there's anything we did that was unnecessary.
I got like toolboxes in the van when I devalue everything I touch basically. So that was an experience.
Yeah.
And then we decked it out with all tools, and it was just a vibe. Like thinking back on all that stuff, it was actually a lot of fun, and it's sort of at that point was starting to feel way more real.
Yeah.
I remember like when we were driving around Melbourne in that undercover car park on our trip, I ripped the roof racks and the surfboard off the roof. Melbourne was fucking expensive actually. Because we did that damage and the surfboard, and then I went to the wave pool and snapped my surfboard as well. So I reckon Melbourne was about a $5,000 2-night visit.
Yeah. And like camping in a caravan in a city is not fun.
Sucks.
Like, yeah, it's not.
It's the worst parking.
Yeah, we were pretty much only there so Ben could surf the wave pool.
Yeah. Did 3 sessions in one day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to do 2 more the next day, and then I just cancelled them because I was too tired.
Yeah.
I overdid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to that point where it was like, I remember the 2 to 3 months in the business leading up, like I was redoing the entire brand, changing a whole bunch of stuff, getting new processes in place. Like it was a lot of work. Like I remember I was working like, I'd only been working 4 days a week for like the 5 years, and I was working like 6 days a week trying to get everything set up. Yeah. I think I was freaking out a bit about like letting go of the control.
Yeah, but also when you're doing something new and uncomfortable, you just want to like control the controllables. So like I did that by like overstocking the caravan.
Yeah, the caravan had so much.
Because I'm like, we might need this. Like, what if we need this? And then
we did about 9 cleanses on the road and threw out like most of the stuff we took.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember like the day came and your parents were here, and we took the photo on the van of like all of us, and we drove to the Goldie.
Yeah. No, we drove to my girlfriend's house first.
Oh, that's your girlfriend.
Yeah, she has like a property out like inland of Brisbane, and that was a really nice like first stop for me because I got to say goodbye to some of my friends. The kids had a big play. She was like, you can stay in the house. And I'm like, no, we're all set up. We're good. We can stay in the van. Like we need to get used to this.
That was the night of the footy grand final as well.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a vibe. We had a couple of beers, had a big play in the pool, and it just felt amazing.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was all upside. Like the fear was gone. We were on the road, and we were just like, shit, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the thing we weren't accounting for was like the first 3 months was like fucking freezing and raining. Like in the first 3 months, we had like a week in total of sunny days.
Yeah, and when you're living in a caravan, like you just want to be outdoors. You want to be at the beach. You want to be doing nature walks. You want to be doing waterfalls, like exploring the little towns. And I feel like we got through that the best we possibly could. Like we still got out and did things, but we have 3 kids that are really young. So like their tolerance for hikes is like, okay, they'll do it like half an hour to an hour a day and then they're done. And like you're not sitting on the beach in cold, windy, rainy weather. So, yeah, it was a lot the first few months. Like, it really was.
So my vision was we'll be having fires on the beach every night with no one around. We'll be, like, walking. I'll be training every day. I'll be surfing every day.
Yeah.
And at the Goldie, I fucked up my shoulder, which took me, like, 3 months to get fixed.
Yeah.
And it just completely, and then the weather completely changed the, like, way that I was thinking about the trip.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big lessons I learned, like, things don't always happen the way that you expect them to. They happen the way that they're supposed to. And yeah, I remember us like thinking we'll just punch it to Sydney pretty quick because we've done that East Coast trip like 10 times already. And I think we stopped in at Port Macquarie, the Goldie, and the Hunter Valley was probably the start of it. Like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So we did that farm stay with like all the horses and just rode horses and did fires and went to wineries. That was so sick.
Yeah, it was like, it's a thing called Hip Camp where you can book and stay on people's properties. And this one was a horse riding, they did horse riding clinics there. And our eldest is obsessed with horses and horse riding. So she just like was in her element there and the guy was really cool. He let her just in and brush the horses and feed them and do their water. And so she just like came to life.
They ended up becoming labourers by the end of that.
Yeah, he was like free labour.
Every day.
Yeah.
We took them on heaps of rides and he was like an old school bushy horse racer guy and he was just a legend and we had the entire property to ourselves.
Yeah. And we went to like a few different wineries in that area which were cool and they had like little tasting boards for the kids, remember? They had like a lemonade, an apple juice, a hot chocolate or something and then they had like little like sour worms and marshmallows and things so they could pair the food with the
5 drinks. I still don't know how I feel about it. Like us going to a winery and having a couple of drinks and then the kids having this experience. I'm like, what's that responsible parenting?
Yeah, geez, you gotta live. I'm not going to the Hunter Valley and not going to a winery.
But I think we got to Sydney briefly. Yeah, and then we caught up with my family and then I had a big thing at one of my mates because I grew up in Sydney. There was probably like 10 or 12 of the boys and their families there. Yeah. And then we were like, then it felt like it sort of really started and we went to my parents, like they've got like a little holiday cabin down at Bendalong in the south coast of Sydney. And the weather there was so beautiful.
Yeah, that was our first little patch of nice weather.
And so my dad and sister came down and we just stayed in our caravan and we just had... The surf was absolutely pumping. I had Green Island and Back Beach Bendalong. Yeah. Every day we were down the beach. It was just really like nice. Kangaroos
there and one of the bays, the stingrays come in as well. So that was like, yeah, it was just nice to be in nature with the sun out because I'm going to harp on about this. But like, you know what it's like. If you go at the beach, you're like, this would be just such a nice day if it was sunny. Like, and we just got that for a brief moment and it was so nice.
Like our eldest daughter Summer's obsessed with animals and these monster stingrays like literally 2 metres across basically were coming in and she found out it had moss on its back so she actually wrote her name in the moss on the back of this stingray which is still probably there at the moment. Yeah. But yeah, that was like... To that point, that was what we knew and that's what we'd done before. Yeah. And I remember driving out of Bendalong and going...
This is new.
Yes. Yeah. And I was so excited. Like I almost just wanted that first month to be done in the weirdest way, even though I was loving it.
Yeah.
And I was also struggling with I've been working my ass off for like more than 15 years, investing, businesses, jobs, like all that stuff. And I actually didn't realise how wound up I was. How completely fucked my nervous system was and how my brain was so used to doing things in a certain way. And that's one thing I'd say for anyone who goes on the road. Like a lot of other people that we talked to and friends of mine that were doing it were like, it takes you 2 months to settle. And it really did. Like I kept trying to overwork and replan business stuff and get involved in client calls and all that stuff because I was just trying to hold on to an identity of myself that didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But once we started to go further south, it started to like slowly let go. And we got to the Sapphire Coast, which was off the hook.
Yeah, you like fell in love with this little town called Robe.
Oh no, that's south Australia.
Is it? Which parts? It's all blurring.
Merimbula, Eden.
Oh yes, okay.
And that epic tiki bar restaurant owned by Justin Hems that we went to.
In Narooma. Oh my God. That is still to this day like the best food I've ever had in my life. It was so good. And I can't even remember the name of the place, but do you? No. It's just turning into a blur. Like even some of the places I can picture the exact town and I'm like, I just can't remember what that town was called because you're moving like every few days to a week. What did we say at the end? We'd stayed in like 40 different towns or something.
Stayed in 40 towns and visited another 40 or 100.
Yeah.
But yeah, Merimbula I just fell in love with. Like we had this sick little spot on the top of the hill overlooking the beach and the surf was pumping and me and the kids were going, and you were going for like walks every single morning or rides, and I met this epic Thai massage lady that was just healing my body. She and I became friendly. I ended up giving her like some extra money because she wanted to like start changing her stars. And then she sent me a gift. Like when we got back, there was like this massage thing there that they use in Thailand.
Yeah.
And it just started to feel like what we wanted. Like we were eating well, we were moving well. My shoulder was starting to get better. The kids were like not craving stability or home anymore. Like they were fully up for the adventure.
Yeah.
We were starting to find good food, and we were starting to find our flow, which was pretty much wake up and, for me, train or meditate, and then do something really fun as a family, have a quiet, like sort of afternoon recovery, and then do something fun in the afternoon again. And we're getting that pace better.
Yeah, yeah. Because with the kids, like, I don't even know, like we did settle, but it was kind of like day by day, wasn't it? Like some days we were really settled, and then other days everyone was just like climbing the walls. Like, yeah.
Like there were multiple meltdowns every couple of days by one of the 5 of us.
Yeah.
But it was awesome.
It was, yeah.
And then from Merimbula, we went to Lakes Entrance.
That was cool. We hired the bikes there because it's just like
bikes.
this completely flat town, and we just like got on bikes and just rode around the whole town the whole time.
You know, unfortunately, the weather was like shocking, like 40 knots, 50 knots southerlies and freezing, but we made the most of it. Like we were putt-putting. We found that Wonka chocolate factory guy.
Yes, little like tea house.
And we just had a really good time there. And we were supposed to like keep going around like the long way, I suppose, along the coastline to Victoria. But we ended up just realising there wasn't heaps there, hey.
And we were tossing up going like right through the mountains there, and we were speaking to people, and they're like,
Bright and all those places.
Yeah, but I think it was going to be crazy windy when we were going to pass through, so they were like, it's a bit dicey with like a big car and caravan.
Yeah, we decided to like punch it to the Mornington Peninsula, which for me, Merimbula and the Mornington Peninsula were like 2 of the 4 highlights of the whole trip. Sorrento and Portsea was where we were staying, and we were staying in like a little government nature strip right on the beach.
Yeah, insane.
It was fucking insane. It was so sick.
Yeah, it was so nice.
Yeah, sorry about that awkward silence.
Ben just looks at me like I've done a million podcasts and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I just have no idea, and I'm just fudging this, really.
I just love how, like, if you and I were sitting in the spa and having a chat, like, you know, it's just us doing that right now. But unfortunately, because there's like 3 cameras and Sam and a light behind us, Lisa's like,
I'm freaking out.
Have another beer, mate.
Oh, sorry.
No, just staring at you. Yeah, but when we got to Mornington, that was off the hook. Like the weather was perfection. The water, like, so one side of the Mornington Peninsula, which is down there in Victoria, is pumping beaches. Like, how good was, I mean, you didn't surf it.
The surf was great, babe. I loved it. No, but it was good for you. And then the other side's just a bay. But it was,
It was offshore the whole time, like perfectly, like glass still.
Yeah.
And then remember that was the first time we started getting into snorkeling. So there were tiny little wharves running out.
Yeah.
And me and the kids were just mucking around every day in our little wetties, picking up like starfish and shells and
Jumping off the jetty.
wharves.
Yeah.
It was just such a vibe. And then Portsea and like Sorrento, they're just literally heaven on earth to me. Like, they're so cool. The most expensive houses in Australia.
Oh, the real estate there is insane. And then we're just down the road camping on the beach next to them.
$30 million house next door, and then our little caravan parked up.
I know. And
then
there's
midweek,
really
everyone goes home.
there's really trendy people there as well. Like, what was that? There was a hotel there that like
That was such a
everyone was
vibe.
just long lunching, and it was like, it was just a mismatch of like camping and like a chill vibe plus this like really high end vibe there.
We were there with the kids, and like part of me was kind of like, man, I wish we had a babysitter so we could do like a long boozy lunch.
Oh my
and
God,
just
how
have
many
an
times
arvo.
did we say that on the trip, hey? You're like, can we Google a babysitter? And I'm just like, I'm not getting some random babysitter in this town, like in another state. I don't know.
freedom value of seeing new things was just like frothing on like the potential.
Yeah, and there were so many like good wineries and breweries around that we were like, oh my gosh, we have to come back here with friends. Like, such a vibe.
Off the hook. So like I found this like surf spot on the other side, and it was offshore, and every day was 3 to 5 foot, and it was just so good. I found this little wave on my own, like this taking off, and then it would break over like dry rock, and you'd have to like take the high bit of the wave and then come back in, and I was just frothing off my head there.
Would you say that was like the end of like your surfing for the trip, really? Like you did a little bit more, but after that, like
Yeah, I think at Mornington, South Oz, I surfed a bunch in robe, and then I like put the board on the roof because people kept getting hit by sharks.
I think we had that conversation. I'm like, you're not dying because you want to go for a surf.
Yeah, South Australia was really dicey because on our trip, in the period of like 2 months, 5 people got attacked by sharks in towns that we were at.
Yeah.
Like it felt like every single time we'd move on, 3 days later, like someone would get eaten in the water. It was fucking horrible.
Yeah, it was. It was just not worth it. But also, I don't know if this is like an every surfer thing, but like it's like you're like a dog with a bone when you are hunting for whale. I don't know if that's like a surfer thing. And I was just like, can we not drive to every single surf point to check it? Because like I'd rather just enjoy the trip, babe. Like
Sam's behind the camera. He's a more frother on surfing than I am, and only a surfer knows the feeling.
Every morning you're like, what's the waves doing? What's the swell? What's the wind?
My happiness, I realised after the first 3 months on the trip, was tied to the wind and the surf. And because I smashed my shoulder, I was devo. Like if you look at my wedding hand, I've got my wedding ring and then another ring with a wave on it. So it sort of shows the priorities.
Yeah. I'm surprised that's not on your wedding finger, to be honest.
But yeah, I think my shoulder just was not getting better, and I was just going through the motions. And
I kept like hitting it every night to make it just stay.
But yeah, I think Mornington was also the start of we're on the trip, and we're starting to figure out what we like.
Yeah.
There was this one day actually at the end of Mornington because I wanted this trip to be very free, like because my life is so structured with the business and the properties and the kids. I was like, I'm just going to like go on an endless summer surf trip for 6 months with my family. Was like my vision. Yeah. And I remember at the end of the Mornington, I just expected to be able to get in the next park, but it was a long weekend and we couldn't.
We'd been out on the boat all day too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We'd been out, we swam with the seals that day.
We took the kids swimming with the seals.
Oh, it was incredible. But we got back and it was like, 5 o'clock or something.
It's almost dark.
And I was like, everything had shut. We had nowhere to stay. We were kicked out of the caravan park that we were in, and I was freaking out. Like I did not like not having.
Because I had to go to the wave pool too. Like it was already booked, and so we had to stay in the area. Yeah. And yeah, we just drove up the road and I found this vacant block of land near these people's houses with a tree, and I'm like, we'll just park it behind the tree, and Lisa's freaking out. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, let's just drive down to the beach. And we drove down to the beach and we're cooking, like, I remember it clearly. I was cooking. It was the best afternoon of the trip probably,
it was
except
beautiful.
for the one in Robe.
Yeah.
And the wind was perfect. People walking past and we're cooking, and every person coming past was so friendly. It wasn't Sorrento, Portsea. It was up the road.
Oh, it was like, 10 minutes away or something. And everyone just got super friendly. Like everyone was stopping and chatting, and I was half expecting one of them to be like, oh, just come and stay at our house.
Yes. So we were cooking there. The kids were just playing on the beach. I went for a swim with them, and someone walks past and they're like, look, just stay here. Like it's all just locals here, just stay on the beach. And we're like, okay. So we just stayed on the beach, and we were half expecting a knock on the door during the night that never came. And then we were off again, and we quickly hit Melbourne, and then we went up to my mate's house. He's got like a massive property in the Grampians. Yeah. And that was sick.
That was awesome. Like we did this really beautiful hike, which was very challenging for the kids, I would say.
It was hectic.
Like
steep and long.
And it's just like rock, the whole thing. But it was like...
We got lost at the top, remember? I'm like, this isn't the top. And but I'm like, we can't find a way up.
Figure it out, yeah.
And then we saw someone and they're like, keep going that way.
Yeah.
The kids were hating it by the end, but I was like, this is like, I want grit in my kids. And I'm like, this is the moment.
We made them carry all our shit and they had to piggyback me back down. And
100%. Yeah, they carried us. No, that was like character building for them. Hey, it was one of those moments where I'm like, I'm going to get you guys to finish something that you started.
Yeah.
And normally I wouldn't do that. I'm such a softie with them. But I was like, no, in this moment they've got to complete.
Yeah.
And you were hated as well. But then by the time we got to the top, it was awesome.
No, it was really nice, like especially to get to the top there. Yeah. And then they have this like platform that overhangs everything.
Weird.
That was sketchy.
That was so
I was
sketchy.
freaking out there. And our like middle child's so scared of heights too.
Yeah, she
but
did so well.
She did so well.
Yeah, so the Grampians was sick because my mate owns this monster property. I went to school with him. He's one of my best mates that I never get to see. And we just ended up setting up, like doing fun stuff every day, like going to waterfalls or hikes or he took us outdoor rock climbing with the kids, which was fat. And then every arvo we'd just have like a bottle of wine with them and a fire and the kids would go nuts. They had like things that like they had just fun stuff for the kids to do every day. Like they had the like lawnmower thing.
Right on mower, yeah.
The kids were just going nuts. And he's got this like massive like garden that's edible. And I was just in there every morning pretty much having breakfast with him while we walked around and chatted.
The kids just helped themselves. Like they had the biggest, I think they're mulberry trees I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And my kids are just walking around eating fistfuls of mulberries, like straight off the tree.
It was so good. And then we had one night where Lisa fully let her hair down.
We won't talk about that.
That was the funniest night ever. We've been together for 15, 16 years almost, and it was like the loosest I've ever seen you get.
It was the air. It was just like the country air.
It was really cool that night. It was just so funny as well for me. But there's this thing, like there's the Northern Lights that you hear about, but there's something, do you know the name of them? The Australialis or something, Sam? But they're like the Northern Lights in Australia and they're fucking hard to see. My mate's been living there for 10 years and he's never seen them. We're having drinks and I'm like, is that lightning? And he's like, that's the Australialis. And we're like...
Yeah, but you guys are pretty cut too, so maybe it wasn't.
No, we were. But it wasn't. It's having a real good time, eh?
That was heaps of fun. And then from there, we kind of cut straight across to South Australia.
Yeah, we went to Mount Gambier and then Robe.
Yeah.
And Robe for me was the highlight outside of Esperance of the whole trip.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. I just want to go every year.
It's this tiny, tiny little town with like a trendy little street of like old school like stone buildings and there's like a really cool pub and some little like homeware stores and a pharmacy and those bits and pieces. And we stayed in the caravan park for a week and then we found the old church had been converted into an Airbnb and it had a brand new like beautiful house kind of tacked on the side that was all joined in. So our friends from South Australia joined us there and we stayed there with all the kids and just had the best time.
Yeah, like it was a lot like the Mornington in the sense that one side of the bay was a peninsula and beautiful flat water and the other side was the psycho surf I surfed in the whole trip. Like it was so rugged and gnarly. But yeah, the town's like everything's as a first town in Oz almost. There's 160-year-old pubs and for me, like I just froth on that stuff. I'm not a big drinker, but I love the vibe. And yeah, like I was going for a bike ride or a run and I saw this place. I'm like, this is the coolest old church ever. And I saw Airbnb on the side. I didn't know it had this massive brand new 5-bedroom house.
Yeah.
I think like the dude that owns Harvey Norman or something's son built it or one of the big things like that, barbecues galore. Actually, maybe Burger King or Hungry Jack's or something. Yeah. But it was such a vibe up there and I opened the gate because it looked empty and I pulled myself up to look in the church and I'm like, we've got to stay. Yeah. So we ended up booking an extra week there, hey?
Yeah, it was beautiful. About like back home I'm watching like my friends on socials and they're like sweating. It was like pure summer and we're down there and we had the fire on every night.
There was a fire in the middle of the church.
But like in the centre of the room of the church and then all the chairs around it. It was such a vibe. It was so cool.
So every day I'd take the kids to the beach. Like the sunsets there were amazing. There's the longest back beach. It's like 10 kilometres or something, maybe not that long. And we'd be able to drive on there and have fires on the beach and just set up for the day. And then I'd go surfing on the back beach and riding with the kids. Like, it literally looked like the Maldives, the water on the sunny day that we had.
Yeah, cool.
There was all streams. One of my favourite bits of road, though, was like my mate came down and we're like, we're just going to go grab a few beers from like the local pub, some takeaways, and the girls are with all the kids. And it's rain, it's like not good. And then all of a sudden, as soon as we get there, the guy's like, we do tasting paddles, and the sun came out. So we got like a tasting paddle, but all of the paddles were like full like schooners or pints. And we're sitting outside in the sun and we had 4 each. And we're like, cut. And then we're like, oh, he's like, do you want another paddle? And we're like, yeah. So we've had like 6 pints. And we're just, Lisa calls us like an hour and a half, 2 hours later, and she's like, where are you? And I'm like, fucking shit-faced down at the pub. And she's like, the kids are going crazy, like, come back.
Save me.
It was just such a vibe. It was so fun. I loved it, hey?
Yeah.
And then where do we go? Victor Harbour was cool, but then it really started. We flew back to Sydney for Christmas just to catch up with the family and stuff, which was cool.
Yeah.
And then we were in West Beach, Adelaide. Yeah, so Robe must have been on that side of Adelaide.
I think so. I think it went Robe and then Victor Harbour and then Adelaide.
But yeah, we were having a good time there. But it really, like, the cities and stuff aren't for me. Like, why we were on the trip was to see these places we've never seen.
Yeah.
And hitting the York Peninsula after New Year's Eve was off the hook.
But remember, when we were in Adelaide, your dad had called us and said, the whole family is going to Sydney for Christmas. You're the only people who aren't coming. Are you close to an airport? Do you want to come? And we were like, yeah, like that would be great because that would give the kids a really good Christmas and we'll see the family and everyone. But at that point, because the weather had been so average the whole way around, we were like, oh, I don't know, do we like head back? Do we just call it quits? Like, what do we do? We remember at that point we were really kind of like,
windy every day. And
yeah,
so
we were like,
cold.
this kind of isn't, like, we're making the most of it, but it's also not the endless summer that we were chasing. And we went to Sydney and had a great time with the family.
Like, if we're not vibing when we come back from Sydney, we're just going to drive home was almost the vibe.
Yeah.
Hey?
And then we were like, nah, like we'll regret it if we don't get over to WA because that's where we really wanted to get to. And from the day we got back, we had perfect weather until we got home.
Every day.
So glad we didn't go.
Every day for 3 months.
Yeah. It was just like, I don't know, like we were rewarded for
Yes,
for like keeping.
Or it was El Nino or whatever they said.
Everyone in South Australia and Western Australia can thank us for the good weather.
Every town we went to, they're like, this isn't ever like this at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Because it was cooler too. It wasn't the crazy 40-degree days. It was just beautiful every day.
It was beautiful, yeah.
So yeah, I remember flying back and we went to the national park, one of the national parks on the the York Peninsula.
Yeah.
I was just obsessed.
Yeah.
Like obsessed with it. Like it really got good from that point. Like we were snorkeling every day, riding, running, training again, like hanging out with the kids and just having the funnest time. Started to do the fires on the beach and looking at the stars at night, and it was a real vibe. Like it's the most remote place of Australia that we went.
It's so rugged. Like, yeah, there's just nothing there. There's these tiny, tiny little hubs that are like you can get your groceries from an IGA and fill up with fuel, and there's like a tiny pharmacy, but that's it really. Like there's just nothing on the York, which makes it so beautiful because
so sick.
Yeah.
I was waiting to go to the Eyre Peninsula because I followed like Trip in a Van and stuff on YouTube for years, and they were always like the Eyre. But the York is, for me, the most nice rugged bit. But unfortunately, people were getting hit by sharks while we were there and just before we got there too. And I was like freaking we just put the surfboards on the roof at that point, hey.
I have to tell the story of like how you invited your mate.
Yeah.
We were like in the middle
Bottom
of nowhere in like literally like picture the most remote place you've ever been to in your life.
Head.
You're there off grid. We like rationing our tank water, and Ben's on the phone to his mate and he's like, yeah, come with your kids. Just stay with us. We've got like a tent. We'll sort it out. Just come down. Don't bring food. We'll sort all the food out. Just come down. And I'm just in the background going, I'm sorry, what? Like, what's happening?
And it was perfect weather to that point. Like this place, Dally Head, was my favourite in all of Australia.
Yeah.
We're sitting at the top of this hill overlooking literally the Maldives with not a soul around. Like there was a couple of other vans and the beach to ourselves every single day for 5 days, perfect weather. And then he comes down, it goes to like 8 degrees and pissing down, eh?
Yeah, we've set up this tent that we had bought just spontaneously. And so we ended up, and then her sister came down with her kid as well. So we had, how many kids did we have in total? Like 8 kids or something?
There was 8 kids in a caravan and a tent.
Yeah.
And all of the kids stayed in the
extra
van with
adults.
us except one.
Yeah.
5 adults and 8 kids
In like one caravan and one little and we had a really good time, but it was just so chaotic, hey? Like it was crazy.
So the weather got so bad that the tent ripped during the night.
Yeah.
And there was a massive huntsman in the tent too.
One of the kids was
And
sick,
the
of
kid
course,
was
as well.
spewing
Like,
in the tent. They didn't sleep at all, but we had a good time, and it was the shittest weather, and we were all just snorkeling anyway. The water was cold. I was like, and they drove all the way from Adelaide to there and back, which is like 5 hours each way for one night. But yeah, that was sick to see them. I'm like stoked that they made that effort.
yeah.
And after the York, we started to hit the air, which I was super excited about. The air was off the hook, like Port Lincoln. I took my 9 and 11-year-old daughters in a great white shark cage dive, and the surf was like 3 meters.
Yeah.
And every single person on the entire boat, except for me and one other dude, spewed up. There was 50 people on the boat. I was like wanting to spew, but I'm like, if I spew, I can't look after the kids. So I'm like,
Hold it in.
I was hanging out on the back. I just remember this so clearly. Like the waves were so big. I'm like, we're gonna die. And I said to the captain, have you ever been out in worse? And he's like, once we accidentally got caught in 5 meter waves, and we were in like 3 meter surf, and I was hanging out the back, and waves were breaking over the entire front of the boat, like literally like 12 to 15 foot waves, and coming washing through the back of the boat. And I'm just hanging on this pole trying not to spew, and sitting with the kids and patting them to sleep.
Yeah.
And then we get to like the shark dive bit behind this island, and it was like really chill.
Yeah.
And to tribute to the kids, like they got in the water, they saw the great whites, and it was fucking...
The funniest thing, like our middle child, she has like a actual phobia of vomiting. Like she goes white as a sheet, will shake at like if anyone's going to vomit near her. So like the scary part for her was the boat ride and not the sharks.
Yeah, she's like doesn't want to go on a boat since. We wanted to go out to Rottnest Island in WA.
She was like, nah, I'm never getting on a boat again. Ever.
Do you want to top up or you're sweet?
No, I'm sweet, yeah.
I'm vibing right now, guys, by the way. I have 2 drinks and I'm sort of on my way.
I don't think you can claim that you're not a drinker anymore. Like you've become a drinker this trip.
Yeah, I'll have like a beer once every couple of weeks now that we're back home.
Yeah.
And I love that.
But yeah, we went from like there, we went to some pretty beautiful like national parks. And
The
then
national parks at Port Lincoln, the snorkeling was insane.
yeah, but you're also like hyper aware of sharks around there, hey?
Yeah.
Like you can't not have it in the back of your mind.
I saw sharks in Robe when our kids were like doing a surf lesson. That was really sketchy. We saw sharks when we were just about to go swimming, like great white cruising around the shore. We saw, when I was surfing at Margaret River and that, I saw a shark fin. And then like the 3-4 great whites on the boat, like they're just everywhere.
They are, yeah.
And the water's different. It's like rocky and sketchy. It's so different.
But like our strategy was like, oh, we'll just swim in like the clear shallow bits and it'll be fine. But then we went for a drive one day and we got a bit bogged in the sand. So we came back out and just sat on the headland and we saw this great white like right in the shoreline. Just cruising. And like a pod of dolphins nearby. And I'm just like, oh, good. No, we're safe.
Yeah. But yeah, like that Eyre Peninsula was cool because there's like a bit more going on, and then there's the national parks where you can take away. So we did like, we really were in the flow at that point.
Yeah.
Like we were like, we're in it. We've got heaps of time left still. We know like how we like our days to be. We know how long we like to stay in places, which for us is like 5 days sort of thing to a week. And we like use the place as a base, and then the day we get in, we're figuring out that like you look at everything cool to do. at that point it was like beautiful hikes, beautiful national parks, beautiful snorkeling spots, beautiful swimming spots, and like cool little breweries and stuff like that, or wineries as well.
We went to like Coffin Bay, and they have Coffin Bay oysters there where they grow all the oysters.
That's
and
right.
There's a sick little place called is it
HQ?
HQ? Yeah. We went there and like I think 3 nights in a row.
Because you're like, oh, finally some actual good food.
Yeah. You like crave it after a while. Like you miss kind of being where there's
It was
restaurants.
so remote for like a month before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a vibe. And then that's when the wharf started as well. Like, so the kids and I just got obsessed with jumping off wharfs. Like, so we do that for like 4 to 6 hours a day.
And then just jumping off and swimming.
Fishing and jumping off, and then climbing on the local guys' tall boats and jumping off.
Yeah.
The kids went from being terrified to like just doing crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Watching their confidence build over this trip has been insane. Like, we all just had a little YOLO kind of vibe to the trip that was just like, we're just going to do it. Like, you know, what's the worst that can happen? We'll be right.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, because like I am a person that has suffered on and off with anxiety my whole life. And like I do have a bit of a catastrophizing brain that like freaks out for no reason. And I think this trip just showed me that like 99% of people are beautiful. Yeah. In fact, everyone we met was so kind and so nice, and there's so many different ways to live your life, but also like taking risks and seeing new places isn't as scary as like, because that's all I used to do. And then I like got to this stage of life and like, you know, thought differently. And then it sort of brought back that, like that kid in both of us. Like we started to have a real good time, and we'll just, living it up. Like it was really nice at that point, because it was like, this is never going to end, because there was so long still.
Yeah, I think like for myself personally, like I'm usually like not always the first one in with you and the kids, because you're basically like a big kid yourself.
Yeah, I'm the fourth kid.
But before we left on the trip, I was like, I'm just going to like not stress out and just get involved and just go for it. And it was like, I'm so glad I had that thought before the trip, because then when we were doing these crazy things, I didn't even like have to weigh up a decision. I just like was like, no, I'm doing it. Let's just go and do it.
You know, in Port Lincoln, one of the highlights was we took the kids diving with sea lions.
Yeah.
And as I jumped off the boat, actually, I said to the dude, I'm like, is there like great whites here? And he's like, nah, they're just around the corner.
They're on the other side of the island.
We're 3 hours out in the ocean in the middle of fucking nowhere. But we got out, and these things are literally like Cocker Spaniels or Labradors of the sea. Like we were playing with them for an hour in the sand, like inside the water. The water was like perfect. Yeah. And the kids are just going nuts. And you could literally like they'd be on the bottom of the sand looking up at you, and then you'd go down to them, and then they'd chase you and you'd chase them. And I was like fully patting them and like playing with them and like.
Well, they liked, if you interacted with them, they got so excited, like a dog would. Like they'd get the zoomies and like kind of jump out the water and then like just do that on a loop. And
it was so cool.
It was really special. Like that's a highlight for me of the trip.
Yeah, like doing that with the kids and seeing the kids just like lighting up and having the best time. Yeah. And then we decided like we either go home here. Again, we were thinking this, like, do we go home? We've had a really good time, or do we like punch the Nullarbor and get to WA and do what we said?
I think because we kind of negotiated with the kids that we wanted to do 6 months at that point.
Yeah, because we were supposed to say for 9, but the kids were starting to like be like, we want to go home at about 4 months in. Yeah,
and then it was more logistically. We want to do it really slow and do it really well. So like, do we just do this part really well? But yeah, we decided to keep going and punched it.
So we get to the Nullarbor, and like we've got 3 or 4 days we decided to do it. And then I'm like chucked on some podcasts, and I'm like just drove from morning to night, and we like did almost a Nullarbor in like a day.
We did it in like 2 days. Like we did one sleepover there.
Yeah, and stayed at this weird joint.
Cockle Biddy it was called. And in the morning we went into like the pub part. We were like playing pool in the pub at like, I don't know, 8:30 in the morning. They have this big wooden cock on the wall. It's like
the eagles in the cage that they've apparently like someone's hit and run, but they're fine, but they can't be rehabilitated now.
The greasiest big breakfast you've ever seen in your life, like just white bread.
I can eat a brekkie too, and I just couldn't get even a quarter of the way through this thing.
Yeah. It was an experience.
And then we punched it to Esperance, and Esperance we decided to stay for like almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Esperance is southern WA. Everyone's probably seen the pictures. It's off the hook.
Yeah, it lived up to the hype.
And we got perfect weather.
Perfect weather.
Perfect offshore days. So we just hit Twilight Beach and all the beaches on one side. The markets we got, like the town's cool. We hired bikes and scooters every day, hit the skate park and the bike tracks and swimming. And like the guys, like before I went swimming on the first day was like, because I knew Bali was coming up and Margaret, I'm like, I got to get like really fit again now. So I was starting to swim like a K and a half every second day. And he's like, yeah, sometimes when you're swimming, you'll see something and it'll be like a seal.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hope it's a seal, not a shark. Because it was like open water.
Well, they had these they had these like ocean pools everywhere, like netted off safe areas for you to swim.
But then we started to hit the national park in Esperance every second day.
Oh my gosh, like
insane.
The most beautiful place you've ever seen. Just the white sand with aqua water with just nothing but like nature around you. So like just beautiful like greenery and these rugged rocks. And like we got to this one, what was it called? Like Hellfire Beach?
Yeah, Little Hellfire Beach.
Little Hellfire.
Oh,
we had it to ourselves for like the first couple of hours we were there. And I'm like, is this real life? Like
jumping off the rocks. By this point, me and the kids are like semi-professional rock jumpers. Like so everywhere we're going, I'm looking for the craziest thing we could find.
Yeah.
And I found it at Twilight. That was probably their most, maybe the one I did at Mount Gambier was pretty hectic too.
Yeah.
But this one was good because you had to like clear this massive bit. And then every second day at Esperance, the shark alarm's going off. Like we didn't hear it, but like I'm talking to people on the beach and they're like, yeah, it went off this morning.
Yeah.
And so you're like jumping into crystal clear water and then paddling for your life to like get out.
Yeah, but you're like paddling to the rock to climb up and the tide, like the current's just sucking you around.
Yeah,
and then over to the like side, it's all dark and murky. So you're like, hurry up kids, get to the rock.
It was just so sick. Like I just haven't had a time in my life that was like that freeing. I loved it there.
Yeah.
And that was when we got like our second wind of the trip. It was like,
Yeah.
we're vibing again. Like this is exactly what we want to be doing. The weather was amazing.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise how good WA is. Like everyone says it, but like we went from Esperance to Albany to Denmark to Margaret to Yellingup.
Yeah.
And everywhere is amazing.
That whole lower section until Yellingup is just like next level.
The best food, the best wineries, the best breweries, the best walks, the best beaches.
Yeah.
Everything there was off the hook.
Yeah.
Like I just only have fond memories. Like I could live there easily in Margaret River. There's hundreds of waves within 100 Ks, and no matter what the surf's like, no matter what the wind's like, no matter what the swell's like, it's just pumping. And I was just back and I was loving it and I was like super fit.
And I was just a surf widow again.
Like half my day every day was just chasing waves up and down the coast. But I obviously loved it.
But at Yellingup, there's like, it's the craziest beach because you walk down and there's this like really shallow section out the front and then it's like almost it's surrounded by like natural rock or something, and then out the back is like this crazy surf. But in the shallow section, me and the kids just like snorkeled. So Ben would go for a surf and we would just head down and just set up on the beach and just go snorkeling for ages. It was so cool.
It was so cool. And like some of the national parks through that area as well, like were just absolutely insane. Yeah. Like empty, like we had some of the most like granites. I can't remember where that was. Do you remember where granites is, man?
I think it's near Streaky Bay.
Oh, okay. That might have been in South Oz before we took the peninsula. And also Cactus we did as well, which was a dream for me. Yeah. On the South A side. But yeah, it was just like empty heaven. Like I just can't even describe it any other way. Like granites, like unfortunately some dude had just got hit by a shark and killed there like just before we got there. And the surf was small, luckily, anyway, but no one was there. Yeah. And it's just that sandstone red rock that you see in Tasmania at like Bay of Fires. and just pools and just the most perfect water, and we're hitting like Elephant Rock and all those like really like iconic places that you've seen the pictures of. And I lost my mind. Like for 6 weeks I was like, I could do this forever.
Yeah. But I think like northern Western Australia is just like that as well. But we never made it that far. So I'm really excited to see that at another point.
Yeah, so what ended up happening is we ended up getting into Perth, getting an Airbnb and getting some truckie on Truck It to Legend, drive our car and our caravan back from Perth to the sunny coast, which was like 6K.
Yeah, and he got back in less than a week.
Yeah, so we just chilled out in an Airbnb while he did that, and then we decided to fly to Bali, and your brother, my brother, one of my best mates came over, or a couple of my best mates came over as well, and we just lived it up because we'd been in a caravan for 6 months.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so nice to have a bit of luxury after just like living in a caravan for 5.5 months, like to have space even, like have our own bedrooms.
Have someone to do the washing, like have beautiful food, gyms, saunas, spas. Like we really lived it up. We got scooters everywhere.
Just had such a fun time because our kids have been to Bali twice before, so it actually feels like a home to them. Like, and we stayed at 2 places we had stayed at before, so it wasn't like another huge adventure for them. It was just like, oh, we've done this, we know what's going on here, like, and we all just had the best time.
We really had a good time. So, like, I suppose from like the question I want to ask you is like, from the person where you were at the start of like before the trip to now, like, what do you think's changed? Because we have had businesses. We've got like kids from 6 to 11 years of age. We've got properties. Like we've had a lot of responsibility in our life in the last 10 years. We've done non-stop projects. Like what did the trip enable you to do and who did it enable you to become?
I think because I set that intention at the start of the trip that I was just going to get involved and like be just like, because we were co-parenting a lot more as well because like we were together all of the time. So usually like Ben's working, I'm doing a lot of like the house stuff as well. So like that, you know, I just felt we were very equal on the trip, which also made it like I didn't have as much responsibility with the kids. So we all just got on like mates, hey? Like, and our kids are a bit older now, so they had, you know, they could contribute and do washing up and all of that kind of boring stuff. But yeah, I feel like we all just like got stronger as a family. And then because I was getting involved in like, you know, jumping off the rocks and doing all these crazy things. And like, I feel like I'm more up for adventure now.
Getting pushed off the rocks.
But like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's the main one for us. I feel like we're all closer. We all probably view each other as equal a bit more.
Yeah.
And
definitely changed the dynamic in the house. Like,
yeah.
You've decided to get involved in the business now and take some of the pressure off me. And I've been way more helpful. Like I try and like, it hasn't quite happened yet, but from next week forward, it's like I finish at 2:00 or 3:00 and I pick up the kids and I do all their sports with them. And we're both like doing stuff like, and I don't know, like I always thought my role as a dad was just to like have fun with the kids and teach them like the things that I wish I got taught as a kid. But I've now recognized like just helping is also like, it just makes your life so much better too. And I think I learned that properly on the road.
Yeah, I think it's not that like I begrudge any of it. It's just that you get burnt out because you're constantly caring and constantly trying to like premeditate what everybody needs and what time you have to be here and stuff. I think also like living without a schedule was so refreshing. Like the biggest decision you have to make that day is like, what beach are we going to? Like it just like really gives you a moment to just decompress. And I feel like we were so chill by the end. Hey, like we were just having the best time. Like we'd go sit on the headland at Yelling Up, have a couple of beers. The kids would make friends in the caravan park. They would be running around till like 7 at night. We'd just do like the easiest like toasties for dinner or something. Like it was just to live for that amount of time with like no pressure of like your home life or work was just so amazing. It's such a gift.
It was like, I remember the first 3 months because the weather was so bad and because it was daylight savings, which our kids aren't used to in Queensland, like we were sort of going to bed as a family at 10:00 at night and like we must have just needed years of catch up on sleep and the whole family was sleeping until like 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning. And I know that sounds really bad to someone and people would be like, why did you waste your mornings? But like I
doesn't
needed
matter,
deep
though.
rest.
Yeah.
Like part of the trip for us wasn't just the adventure, but it was like relaxing. Like at the very start of the trip, I listened to this dude on YouTube and he said there's 3 things you can do to reset your brain in 30 days. Brush your teeth with your left hand because it forces your brain to rewire itself. And I realized that this is weird to say, but I always put my pants on like with my left foot
We're not
down
talking
first.
about that, babe.
Like little things, but like I became really conscious and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it with my right foot. Like anything I would normally do because of habit, I changed.
Yeah.
And like he said, if you do deep breathing, like breaths, and then this other weird thing he said was like, look at yourself in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth and just say like, I love you, I forgive you. Mm-hmm. And like doing those things plus getting to properly rest after, like my cortisol was through the fucking roof. Yeah. Like, and my adrenal system was exhausted. Yeah. And my nervous system was shot. And because of that, I was not living my best self as a partner, not living my best self as a dad, not living like, I'm sorry to say this, guys, like who follow our shit, but like I haven't been giving our best shit on camera or to our clients for years now. And I haven't been my best self with my health. And halfway through the trip, it's like I just got this bolt of lightning of like passion, purpose, excitement, energy back that I haven't had. And now it's like I'm all in. Yeah. Like,
yeah, well, you're recharged.
I'm recharged. Like it gave me a chance to reset and like recover from. People break themselves in the gym all the time, but many, many, many people listening to this, myself included, break themselves at work. Yeah. And I was broken and like I needed to heal. Yeah. And I couldn't have done it without this trip. And I highly recommend to anyone that's thinking about doing it. We were super scared. Yeah. But it works out.
If you can. Like we're very blessed that we're able to do that and still keep our business running, like, you know, while we're away. I just feel like I wish there was a government grant that was like everyone gets 6 months to just go live as a family and enjoy your life. Like, wouldn't that be nice?
It's not for everyone. Like it was very uncomfortable too.
Oh, yeah, like absolutely. Like you were all living on top of each other in a tin can. Like there's no escape. There's no like dropping the kids at school or even going and sitting in your room. Like even in the shower, the kids would like just be like, Mum, just like chatting at me in the shower. I'm like, I can't even have a little shower in here.
30-second shower full of water's out. Yeah, it was really cool. Like what else did you learn about yourself or about like what you want out of your future on the road?
I don't know. I don't feel like I was living very out of alignment with what we were doing anyway. Like I just really enjoyed it. I don't know if there's like a big epiphany that I had. Maybe some of my crutches were kind of like gone. But then, I don't know, I read a lot on the road. Like I just devoured books, didn't I? Which was like a cool little passion that like, I just don't read unless we're on holidays and then I'll read like 10 books.
I was giving Lisa shit on the road because like, you know, there's like all the mums used to read Mills and Burns and they were like sort of stories, just sort of sexual. And Lisa was into like
spicy books.
Like, spicy books. So I was getting the full benefit of these books as well. It was a fucking vibe.
Ben's like, we're just going on holidays all the time, so Lisa can just like read these books.
Yeah, just keep reading that. I love it. But yeah, I think for me, like just feeling like myself again. Yeah. Like there's this great picture that I've seen before, and it's like 2 adults sitting back to back. With 2 kids inside those adults reaching out to try and hug each other. And I feel like in the world that we're in, like sometimes you just, you know, you get disconnected from others and you get disconnected from yourself. Yeah. And I feel like I found my way back to myself. Like I found my why again. I found my purpose again. I found the person that I am, like, and that I was born to be. Like I forgave myself and asked for forgiveness for a lot of the things that I've done in the past that aren't in alignment with myself. Like, you know, we met a lot of people on the road. Like there's beautiful people out there. And I found a lot of people are running away from something. A lot of people are trying to escape something, or a lot of people are just like not wanting to like accept life as it is at the stage that they're at, where I really enjoy what we do at home because we've like slowly created a life over 15 years together that's in alignment with what we love.
Oh yeah, this was just like a cherry on top. It's not like we were avoiding our life. We were like, our life's amazing. This is just like an absolute gift that we get to do this as well.
Yeah. And seeing the kids grow, like there's things that I know that, you know, you can say whatever you want, but like showing people what you do is very different. And like, I hope people get that from this. Like, there's fucking hundreds of people out there that talk shit about property, but like, we got financially in 15 years from it. And there's a difference between being there from starting from nothing, and it was the same on the road. Like, there's a difference from me saying something to my kids about, you know, like, this is something that I want to drop so that at 25 it comes back through.
Yeah.
Versus like, I'm showing you what like stepping out of your comfort zone in a safe way looks like, and that you're going to be okay. And in that moment of like experience, dropping that little line that they won't remember or even hear, but it'll be there for later.
Yeah.
And I think just getting to spend that time with them and be free, and them getting to see a different version of us, like playful, fun, like more relaxed, like some of the baggage that we carry in life just dropped.
Yeah. I think like also just pushing through your uncomfortable points like was a huge one for all of us. Like,
Man, I'm such a creature of habit.
it's like, I don't know if any of you guys watch How I Met Your Mother, there's a scene in it where like two of the characters go on a road trip and he has this cassette tape stuck in his car and it's just a one song playing on a loop. And
I could have walked face. That one.
and they just go like, he's like, the passenger's just like, I can't listen to this song one more time. I'm going to lose my mind. And he's like, don't worry, mate. It comes back around. And like the next scene, they're just like, yeah, they're like, see, I'm like, that's how I would describe the trip. You're like into it, then you're fully out of it. And you're just like, get me out of here. Don't talk to me today. And then you're like, no, I'm vibing again. Like it just keeps coming back around. So like, if you can just push through the uncomfortable, it usually comes back around. And like, it was cool, not only for the kids, but like for us to just live that again, you know, because like how often do adults get out of their comfort zone really? Like you kind of end up getting more set in, you're comfortable the older you get.
Just before we went on the trip, like a good friend of mine who's a baller, like he literally like manages like 14,000 people around the world in his past job. And now he's just connected with a billionaire and they're like launching in America. Like, he's got to employ like 300 staff this year type vibe. And he and I were going for a swim at Mooloolaba. And he said when we're grabbing, like he was grabbing a coffee after and I was grabbing some food, and he's like, why are you doing this? Because like in his world, like business and family are it. And I was like, honestly, bro, like I looked him straight in the eye and I was like, because it's the most uncomfortable thing that I can do right now. And like what's got every person listening to this right now, plus us, is like to hear is like we've survived 100% of our hardest days.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, there is no such thing as uncomfortable. It's all a game and it's all playful and it's just fail until you get it. And then as an adult, we start like not wanting to fail, not wanting to lose face, not wanting to put ourselves outside our comfort zones because that dickhead at school gave you shit, or that teacher gave you a hard time, or you missed that, you know, pass at university or whatever. And slowly over time we get more boxed in, and I'm like, I need to grow again. Like I need to get to a place where like I feel like every day is an adventure, and it's changed our life. Like the things that we'll do forever from this point forward are different. The way that I'm showing up for the people that I'm speaking to and helping in our business is so different now, because I'm like, I want everyone to taste financial freedom as quickly as possible so that they can do this shit and they can like pay it forward to the other people in their life too.
Yeah. So what would you say then, like, what were your like highlights and what were your like pits? Like what was the worst of the trip? It's got to have balance. You can't just be like, this was like perfect.
Do I eat the veggies first and say the worst and then finish with the best, or do I do the best?
I don't know.
I do the worst first.
Oh, okay.
I'm like that. So for me, I didn't realise how much of a fucking introverted person I actually am. Like you wouldn't know it from these podcasts, but in a big group, I'm a one-on-one guy or I'm a small group guy. We're Simey, like as everyone might see from the camera.
He's like 1,000% extrovert.
Party, let's roll.
Yeah.
Even if it's breakfast or a surf. And so it's like I didn't realise how much I use meditating, prayer, training, time with my friends, surfing on my own to like recharge, and I couldn't get that on the road.
No.
And so I was trying every single day for 6 months. I went out and did like something in the morning basically.
Yeah.
But that was really hard for me. The other thing was like I'm such an energy person and my energy is dependent on the energy of people around me. If it's a great energy, I'm feeding off that. If it's darker energy, like I don't need it, if you know what I mean. And so with the kids in one space, like every single day, 2 people having a meltdown at different times and just not having anywhere to protect myself from like other people's vibes was fucking hard. And then I think the third thing that was hard was like missing relationships because life is better shared.
Yeah.
And like I didn't realise how much the community makes the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Like what were some of the hard things for you?
I think I love my girlfriends. Like we catch up like weekly. I'm going to coffee or like we're doing a girls' weekend away and stuff. So like only having your partner and your kids.
Can't get everything from me.
And obviously if you like, Ben, he just loves training. So that's like, he loves talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, babe, like I get it, but not really.
Training for what was what the kids
I
are
think
saying.
at one point I messaged my girlfriends. I'm like, I need you to check in with me daily at this point. Like I just need that interaction. So that was hard. But I mean, like practically caravanning, I'd say hard was like the whole toilet situation, don't you think? Like that was just like, oh my God. And like being in the middle of nowhere, like no one like advertises that when they're posting about their trips. That whole situation was like not ideal, was it? But what I thought was going to be hard that ended up being fine was I was worried about like just being with the kids so much and not having any respite from that. But ended up being fine. Like we all just kind of got used to it. And
yeah, I'd take them to do fun shit for 2 hours a day so you could have
you did not. You're such a lie. You do that once a week.
Oh, whatever.
But no, we ended up getting good at like communicating, just being like, I just need a minute. Like, can you just take the kids to the beach or go for a walk or whatever? But that ended up being all right. But honestly, I think the weather played a lot in like the start of it. But once it got beautiful, like it was pretty good.
The best bits for me was spending that much time with you and my kids. Like that's my dream. Like my number one value in life is family. Yeah. And getting to spend that much meaningful and quality time and just long-term time. Yeah. Like it was so sick. I fucking loved it. And I miss it now so much. Like I miss just hanging with like my little besties all the time and just doing stuff. Highlights of the trip were Merimbula, Mornington Peninsula, Robe, Esperance, like the best places I've ever been. And we live in paradise here on the sunny coast, you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, that was highlights. And I think just finding my passion and myself again, like life isn't always actually about adding stuff. Like Bruce Lee said, it's like the daily decrease, like hack away at the unessential. And I'd loaded so much stuff on myself over the last 20 years that like reducing it back to me was big. Like I feel so calm, centered and confident about the future because I fully get that times are going to be good and bad. Markets are going to go up and down. Relationships are going to come and go. But like I trust that I've said it to you, like I just feel protected and looked after and like I do feel like I found a spiritual relationship again and I just feel like very grateful for that. Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Like what were some of the best bits?
Oh, like Western Australia was such a highlight for me. And I think just like the overall that we did it. Like we talked about it for so long and it was scary and at points we wanted to bail and like when we got to Perth, I literally was like, oh my God, we did it.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, it was like achieving something that was really like amazing, but also really hard at points. Like it was just cool.
Remember that arvo in Perth when we got to the Airbnb and we were out of the caravan had been taken. Yeah. And we were sitting out the backyard and we had a couple of really good bottles of wine from like the Margaret River. Yeah. And the kids were like, thank gosh, we've got like space from mum and dad for the afternoon. Yeah, yeah. And they were like just Netflix binging because I hadn't had it for 6 months and just loving like space and food and a fridge. Yeah. And we just sat out the back and the sun was going down and we like cracked a bottle and then cracked another one and like we were pretty pissy. And we were just having this mad chat and we were like, reminiscing on it like we are right now, and it's just a vibe. Like we did what we said we were going to do, and like I've said this to you too many times on this trip, but like I feel stronger when I do what I say I'm going to do, and we did it. Like, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, definitely. So like, what would be your advice to people that want to do like a trip like this, whether it's around Australia or like, I don't know, go abroad for a year or something like that?
We met so many people doing it, and there's never a good time to go. But like, I watched the Nike movie the other day, and I think it's just what they said, like, just do it. We've got like more shit than most people have going on, like between 3 kids, multiple businesses, property portfolio, like a bunch of staff, a bunch of contractors, a bunch of people that like rely on us. And if we could figure out a way to make it work, like all of that fear felt like we were going to jump out of a plane, and it was literally like stepping off a gutter.
Yeah.
And like, there were times when we needed to work on the road, so we worked. And there were times when we didn't need to, so we didn't.
Yeah.
But I think just life is like 80 to 100 years if you're lucky. And like we met heaps of people on the road that are 70, 80 and 90. Every dude that I talked to, because I was like doing weird training every morning out the front of the van, so like all the oldies would come and talk to me. And I love talking to them. And I asked every single one of them, like, what would you do at my age now? What have you learned from like being alive for that long? And they fucking tell you, like, honestly, like, more time with your family, more time training so that you move better at that age, more enjoying life, like retiring early, not putting as much of your identity into the work that you do or the investments that you make, but just fucking living. And I met dudes that were retiring at 70 and dudes that retired at 40 and 50, and the difference in their faces at 80 was like 100 years. Like, and so I got that belief of like financial freedom is important, and the earlier you can get it, like if you can get it pre-60, amazing. If you can get it at like 45 or 50, fucking even better. Yeah, what about you? I can't even remember what you asked.
I was just thinking that. I was like, what was the question?
Let me throw you into a hospital pass right now because I can't fucking remember what you asked. Yes. I could walk 500 miles.
It's just that song playing on loop in my brain.
No, I'm grateful to be able to have this chat. Like anyone that's still listening, I've got to give you respect because this is so different than what we normally talk about. And it really is our adventure and our trip. And to you guys, like, while it's got so much meaning to us, it might not have as much to people listening. But I really vibe and I love what we do, and I'm so grateful, and I'm stoked that we got to do it together.
Yeah, me too.
Yay. Next. What's next? Last question.
Next, I don't know. I think I'm ready for I'm ready to go abroad, I think. Like, I haven't actually done any, because we got together so young and had kids so young. I haven't actually done like Europe and America and like all the big ones. So I think that would be next for me personally, like obviously
Europe
as a family, but yeah.
America 2026 for the World Cup.
Yeah, I feel like I'm settled with the amount of Australia we've seen at this point. And I want to go abroad now.
The next Aussie trips that I want to do is I want to definitely go to Tassie for longer because we've only been there for a short time.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do Perth to Broome. And they're probably the big rocks. And then with friends and family, I definitely want to go back to Robe, and I definitely want to go back to the Mornington.
Yeah.
But yeah, like overseas-wise, Europe, and we've realised Europe isn't one trip. Europe's probably like 4 to 5 trips over the next 20 years to try and do like a few countries at a time well. But it gets me excited.
Yeah, me too.
Kids have just come running back in now, so we might wrap it up there. Thanks so much everyone for listening though, and cheers for doing this, babe, and getting out of your comfort zone.
No worries.
Woo, that's a wrap. Getting
cool,
bro.
Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice.